Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and potentially even good evening, depending upon where you're joining us from. I am Kathy Maggi, class of 1991, and co-chair of President's Council, along with Peyton Schubrick, class of 2015. I want to thank you all for joining us today for our topic of an inside look at Holy Cross today and the Jesuit mission in action. I'm going to be your moderator, and I'm honored to welcome our panelists, Vince Rougeau, President of Holy Cross, Michele Murray, Senior Vice President, Student Development and Mission, and Father Keith Maczkiewicz, Associate Vice President and Mission and Ministry. So before we get started on the question, I would like to ask President Rougeau to give us a quick update on Holy Cross.
Thanks so much, Kathy, and good morning, afternoon, etc. to all of you. Thanks for taking time out of your day to join us, and it's really good to be here with you all. As you know, community is one of the core elements that really sets Holy Cross apart from other institutions, whether it's on campus with our current students or off campus through alumni networks and events. And our community is made up of people of many different backgrounds, cultures, and lived experiences. And what really ties us together is our shared Jesuit Catholic mission. It's core to everything we do at Holy Cross, but it not only lives on campus, but each graduate carries these ideals with them when they receive their diploma and move out into the world. And we celebrated this last month with the class of 2025. And it's been, prior to that, it was a very busy spring. Classes wrapped up, and as performances concluded and final exams were completed, and the students have returned home. But that didn't stop our baseball team from securing a championship at the end of the academic year. And we recognize many inspiring accomplishments of the class of 2025 throughout the last several weeks. And I sort of feel like an honorary member of that class since we all started together. My first year at the college was also their first year at the college in the fall of 2021. And then just this past weekend, we hosted more than 2,000 reunion goers. And despite some, Worcester-like weather challenges, a terrific time was had by all. And there's some more good news. As the college has gotten a little bit quieter over the summer, we still have a tremendous amount of momentum as we move into the fall. Now, you're hearing probably about a lot of institutions struggling to enroll their classes, but that has not been the case for us. Our incoming class, the class of 2029, actually represents the most competitive class, or at least one of the most competitive classes in the college's history. Our applications surpassed 10,000 for the first time. And of that, we admitted 18% of the applicants. And just to give you some context, this is down from 43% just 4 years ago. We're welcoming students from 51 US states and territories and 28 countries worldwide. And of course, all of you are a part of this record-setting success. Your support of students really allows Holy Cross to deliver this one-of-a-kind educational experience. So as we ramp up for a new comprehensive campaign to support academic excellence, access and affordability, and a transformational residential and student experience, many of you in this room will help guide what the Holy Cross experience looks like for decades to come. So your passion for the college and your dedication to our students continues to transform Holy Cross into a place that so many can call a second home. And without your devotion, none of this would be possible. So before we launch, I just want to say one more time, thank you. Thank you for all that you do for all of us.
Thank you, Vince. And so just a little bit of background sort of on how we picked today's topic. Peyton and I speak with our friends here at the college pretty often and trying to say, what are the types of things that we would like to hear more about. And, the Board of Trustees had their quarterly meeting about a month or so ago, and I happened to be up at Holy Cross for a subcommittee meeting. And during our lunch, we had a panel with a number of Jesuits that are in residence at the college, and I found it not only inspiring, but certainly very interesting to hear all the different things that are going on. So a lot of that, was sort of what drove us to pick this topic today. So again, hopefully you all find it very interesting, or as much as I did. Anyway, I'd like to start maybe with Michele. Could you please talk a little bit about, what service initiatives Holy Cross students are involved in Worcester?
Sure. Thanks for the question. And thanks to all of you for joining today. Your presence here on this webinar, I think, is a sign of your dedication to the college. And as Vince said, we're really very grateful for your ongoing support. So for those of you who are remember fondly community service as an important part, an important aspect of your student experience, I'm very happy and proud to say that that tradition is incredibly alive and well with our current students. Our students are involved in the city of Worcester in a pretty comprehensive way. So for example, the last year that we have solid data for, the academic year 23-24, there were over 729 students who served over 15,000 hours just through their service learning courses. So that's just their academic courses. We also have students who are involved, a lot of students who are involved in Working for Worcester. And some of you may have been here when Working for Worcester was created over 15 years ago. And it was created by Holy Cross students, but now encompasses students from around, college students from around Worcester. And these are students who are dedicated to building and refurbishing playgrounds in Worcester's public schools. So, if prior to Working for Worcester, we had schools that did not have playgrounds, if you can imagine, elementary schools. And because of the dedication of our students, kids all across the city are able to enjoy safe recess and have playgrounds that are worthy of them. So that's something that happens every year. Faculty and staff also support the Working for Worcester effort and build right alongside students. We had students volunteer with federal, state, municipal, and nonprofit agencies for more than 50,000 hours. So that's a lot of students in a lot of places. And then again, in the city, 11,000 of those 50,000 hours were spent just in Worcester public schools. So, our students are doing community-based learning through their classes, their service learning, they're doing teacher education programs. SPUD, which is a long time tradition, is alive and well with its many, many programs and students that's a entirely volunteer program. Working for Worcester, I mentioned, is entirely volunteer. Our athletics department, all of our sports teams are involved in a significant way in community service in Worcester. There's also the academic internship program. Career development has programs. And certainly we have students who are doing their work study in placements in the city of Worcester. So I could go on and on, actually, but I think that gives you a real breadth of understanding, or an understanding of the breadth of how and where our students are involved. And I'm really proud that this continues to be a hallmark portion of the Holy Cross experience, is getting out into the community and doing our part side by side with our neighbors.
Thank you, Michele. I mean, again, I graduated 34 years ago. Big milestone reunion next year. Very excited about that. But I think for when I was there, while I might think I did my fair share in terms of teaching CCD or driving the SPUD van, it's incredible to see the magnitude to which we are one in the community now versus so many years ago, where we were just not that active. I mean, despite the fact that there are plenty of other students that were active back then. We've talked about the student population. Maybe let's transfer now to sort of specifically more about what the college is doing, just in terms of not only knowledge, but in terms of in practice of our Catholic faith, or the Jesuit philosophy, in what we're doing sort of in and out of the community. Maybe Vince, we'll start with you for that one.
Sure. Well, as president of the college, I actually have two jobs, right? I am president of the college, but I'm also the director of the work of the Society of Jesus, in that it is embodied by the College of the Holy Cross. So a lot of what I do is to think deeply and to be involved in a number of different ways in thinking about how we do that work in the context of it being a Jesuit work. And Michele, Keith, and I are involved regularly in a lot of different conversations of this type, and I'm going to let them jump in a minute, but I'll just talk about two things to start. I think the most significant thing that we do to sort of signal who we are as a Jesuit Catholic institution within the Society of Jesus is what we call the Mission Priority Examen. And this is almost like an accreditation of sorts, that kind of reminds us and verifies that we really are doing the work that the Society of Jesus has in mind for an institution of higher learning. And that's evaluated internally, and it's also evaluated externally. So we have peers from other Jesuit institutions and members, Jesuits and other Jesuits from around the country and the world sometimes, who participate in that, as I do as well. I've gone to other institutions as part of a team that evaluates who they are and what they do as a Jesuit institution. So we are going to be going through that process next year. And actually, I will be leading a team at Santa Clara next year as well. So that just shows you how integrated that work is. But to get a little bit more specific in terms of, what that work means and how we actually do it in the way that sort of is fostering knowledge and practice in our community, I'll let Keith and Michele sort of jump in a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Vince. The Mission Priority Exam, it's a process of the Jesuits in the United States. And so it's the second round of these types of experiences that the colleges are going through, all the 27 Jesuit colleges and universities. Father General, the head Jesuit in the world, has asked us to consider it a real discernment practice, which I take great heart in. So Vince mentioned it kind of, what's the old phrase? If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it might be a duck. It kind of feels like an accreditation process, but it's not really an accreditation process. It's a way to discern how your institution is in its reality and where it wants to move, keeping in mind the principles of the province and the goals of the society and the preferences. We use this phrase, the apostolic preferences, universal apostolic preferences, kind of the things that we're really focusing on as Jesuits. So we work from a document that's fully available online, the characteristics of Jesuit higher education. You can find a PDF of that online. And there are different kind of pillars that we're looking at, and a lot of great questions for reflection. What's great about the questions, it's one of the things that drives some people crazy about Jesuits, is like we don't really offer a lot of advice. We mostly ask a lot of questions. So it's a continual questioning process. Our work will start in earnest in the fall, but it's begun already. There's a very large committee, large in a good way, in that it has representation from across the college. It's chaired by Michele and Justin Pochet from the history department. Very important to kind of have a faculty person in the mix there as well. And there's several faculty members. And so we'll kind of separate ourselves out into working teams. We'll do a lot of listening sessions in the fall. So listening to the voices across campus. Where are our strengths? Where are our growing edges? And where do we want to move from here? Again, in light of what the society and what the church is asking us to do. The way the process works is Vince mentioned we have this visiting team. They will come, they'll kind of meet a lot of people, have a lot of conversations. They will type up a report. That goes to Rome, and then it's looked at by both the Jesuits and the Vatican, actually, to confirm our Jesuit and Catholic status. But again, it's not an accreditation so much as it is a tool for growth and for real self-evaluation. And Michele might want to say something else.
I think you've covered it really well, and really to focus on the MPE is what we call it for short, Mission Priority Examen, the MPE as a tool of discernment, so that we are invited every 7 years to consider and affirm how we are Jesuit Catholic, not according to our own standards, but according to the standards that have been set out for us. And that's where the guiding questions come from in the document that Keith referred to. And then I think that to just underscore that, that the report, our self-study, and then the visiting team, who are also in discernment with us, their report, all of that goes to Rome. And that's actually how we get our Jesuit Catholic identity affirmed, right? It comes from Rome. And I think that's really important for people to remember. The other piece that I'll just say related to this question is, in addition to all three of us are very involved in the work of the province, but we're also very involved in the Association of Jesuit Colleges and Universities. And in fact, I just came from 2 meetings out there in Chicago, and there are more meetings taking place. And so we are in constant conversation with our colleagues across the country and in Canada and Belize, actually, about what it means to be Jesuit Catholic in today's world. And we discuss the very difficult issues, AI, the political unrest, free expression. We discuss all of that, and together talk through how do we uphold our identity while tackling these very real issues in the world, which is, if you think about the Jesuits and their history, always going to the margins, always leading, that's a part of who we are. And so, we get a lot of our mojo, our juice from being in community with our colleagues across the country, knowing that we're in solidarity together and pushing forward this enterprise of Jesuit higher education as a whole. And the College of the Holy Cross has a particular role in that, but we are part of a larger community. So staying in touch with that is also really helpful to us.
Thank you to each of you for that one. Certainly, the depth of what we're doing is absolutely incredible. And Michele, you touched on a couple of things just in terms of free speech and AI, and we're going to get to those topics as well. And we talked a little bit about the students. Can you maybe talk about sort of the percentage of current undergraduates that get involved in Jesuit missions and HC cares, and then also like how this is being encouraged at Holy Cross? And then do we have a sense as to whether or not, graduates have a stronger faith now after having spent 4 years at Holy Cross? Vince, maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, we have a really large percentage of our student body who are involved in at least one of the chaplain's office programs. I'll let Michele and Keith get into that a little bit more. But, when you consider on-campus events from our academic programming through community-based learning, through co-curricular activities, there's just so much going on that flows directly from the mission. And something I always want to make sure people recognize too, the academic program has an important mission focus. Part of what we're doing is we structure the academic program around a core understanding of, the key strengths and pillars of the Catholic intellectual tradition. And so that's weaving through it may not always be so obvious to people, but it's obvious to us and it's obvious to other provosts and the folks who are thinking deeply about our academic program. So, the academic mission is core because our work here is as college. But then there are all these other programs that take place. But on a more personal level, some things that happened this year that I found particularly exciting. We had the 100th anniversary of St. Joseph Memorial Chapel, and there were a number of different programs around that. And in particular, my wife and I, Robin, spent a lot of time this year just worshiping with students and participating in masses. I sing, so I cantored a couple of masses. I participated in Vespers. Robin was a lector. We did a talk with the Faucis as the final point of celebration for the anniversary of the chapel, talking about our vocation as married couples and as professionals, and how we, did our work as parents, all of these things, to really engage the students around a real holistic understanding of, what it is to be in a Jesuit Catholic environment and to think about things like vocation in all aspects of your life. So I think there's a really vibrant and exciting sense of religious life here and religious identity across all kinds of programming. And maybe Michele and Keith can talk a little bit more about some of that more specifically.
I might just add something, I'll pull a thread through from something Vince said at the beginning, which is Holy Cross is in a really fortunate position in terms of resources available to it. And many of that is due to a lot of people on the call, and we thank you for that. But with those resources, I mean, I used to work at another institution. We have 9 full-time Catholic chaplains over in the chaplain's office. It is not a small operation. We are not a big place. So the percentage of like resources that we're putting towards faith development with our students is not insignificant. And I would say the same is true in the academic side of the house. We're watching in other places as budgets get tighter. The humanities are the first things that are getting slashed, especially philosophy and theology. And so there's a commitment here to that, both co-curricularly, but also curricularly. And I think those things are really important to mention. I'll also just say something about kind of Jesuit life. I think sometimes people are asking how many Jesuits are there around. You know, I just, there's a couple things I'd say. When I left here in 2021, and the number of Jesuits was falling. I came back in last summer, the number of Jesuits was climbing. So right now we're 14 men here. Some people will hear that number and say like, oh my gosh, the wheels are falling off the place. But what I try to remind people is that like the 1950s and the 1960s, that was kind of the aberration. So to have communities of 100 Jesuits in multiple places that had never been our history before, it's not going to be our history again. St. Ignatius in his time would send 2 priests and a brother out to do something, and he'd say, go figure it out. And I had some time with Jesuit friends over the weekend, and we're constantly solving the problems of the world and the problems of the Society of Jesus. And, you know, we said at a place like Holy Cross, because of its size and because of its unique mission in the Jesuit ecosystem, you could make a go here with the right 7 Jesuits, actually. You could be exceptionally effective here if they were in the right jobs and they were the right men. And I have to say, Tim O'Brien, many of you probably know Tim. Tim left last summer. Tim, I don't want to say he did it all himself. Michele was a great help here too. He recruited 4 new Jesuits over the summer and like got them here into jobs that were really important jobs. So I'm just kind of picking up the ball here and trying to advance the mission. I'll say one more thing too, and then Michele can add something, which is about vocations to the Jesuits. Holy Cross, at only 3,200 students, we are averaging roughly, over the last several years, 1 man entering the Jesuits per year. That may not sound like a lot to you. It's punching way above its weight in the Jesuit network. So like, as a percentage of the students, we're punching above Georgetown, we're punching above Boston College, and the men tend to stay. I went to another one of our institutions. I graduated 21 years ago. I am the last man to graduate and enter the Jesuits and stay. No one has entered from that other institution in over 20 years. And that says something to me about that institution. Here, we've got a lot of men who express interest. There's been a very active vocation group since the early 90s, and that has helped to feed their faith, but also has led men to enter the Jesuits. So like, it's part of the reason I was willing to come back here too. I work for the vocations office for the province. So like, I'm wearing a couple different hats here, but this place, because of its model, because of the witness of the Jesuit community, and because I think what we're doing in terms of the life of faith and the celebration of the sacraments, we have a lot of vocations out of here, which you can't be said about a lot of other places.
I think the statistic that I heard when we were at lunch with your panel was like 1 every year since 2004.
It's pretty close to that. It's an average, but yes, it's very, very close to that. And the men they're really good men. Like Brent Otto is back here now. Brent graduated, I think, in 2001, I think it is. So he's just before Tim O'Brien's class of 06. Like, it's a really good group of men. I just was emailing with another alum from just a couple years ago. He's going to be up in our retreat house directing retreats for the summer. He wants to stop back on campus for something. So like, they're really, really solid men. And I think that's one of the things we think about a lot in the Jesuits is numbers are not our concern. Quality is much more important than quantity.
And I'll thank you for that, Keith. And I'm actually gonna ask you to respond to one more thing, because I heard in the question too, just to people wanting a window into the faith life of our students. And I think it's important to note, and, you know, this is, I think some of you may know, this is my third Jesuit institution. And I'll say that the student mass here at Holy Cross, unlike many of our sister institutions, is standing room only. And when I say standing room only, I really, really mean that. Not a seat to be found if you are even just 2 minutes, if you arrive 2 minutes before Mass starts. So our students really do celebrate together. And, you know, and we see the evidence of their active faith lives in all sorts of ways. Certainly students who, after their graduation, they'll enter JVC or look for a Fulbright, or as is happening this year, taking full-time jobs with some of the organizations that they connected with when they did spring break immersion. So this is the kind of student experience that we're promoting that would lend our students to making these kinds of post-grad decisions. And, you know, part of that, I lead a weekly rosary, you know, and people come in and out. Our students are engaging their faith in lots of different ways. And the best part about having such a large chaplain's office, as Keith mentioned, is that we can open many, many doors for them, and they can engage in the way that they feel most comfortable. And then we do our work to help them develop. Now, there's a question I could see in the chat about conversions from across the student body. And Keith, what I'd love for you to talk about is what happened when we had our confirmations with the bishop here this Easter season.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. There's a couple of ways to answer this question. One is, if you're doing any reading about kind of the church across the globe, numbers of people who are entering the church are way up. And especially that's happening in places that have not seen numbers like this in a really long time, including in the West. So like the numbers in Belgium are way up, France, but also the numbers locally are up. So this is a trend we're seeing across Jesuit higher education right now. There's, again, two ways to answer this. We had 3 students come in to be initiated into the church, so baptism, first communion, and confirmation. They joined another 27 students who finished their initiation, and that is something we need to talk about. For many students, when they're in high school, I used to say, if you were on strike in high school and just like refused to be confirmed because it's something like mom wanted or dad wanted, but you were not interested, we offer that here, a chance to finish your initiation. It's a year-long program run through the chaplain's office, and students they meet in cohorts to kind of finish again their initiation. So like those things are alive and well, I would say. The opportunity to do that is alive and well. There's a staff member here on my first day last summer. He said to me, my parish was rather inflexible. You know, my kid plays competitive sports, and we just couldn't make it work. You know, for our family, it didn't work. And I said, I will give you somebody's email address. You can sign your kid up tomorrow. And he did. So, you know, the opportunity, it's not just about people converting to the faith. It's about people finishing their initiation. Which is a super, super important understanding about our Catholic faith. And I just don't want to overlook that.
Thank you. And as someone, again, who chose Holy Cross, or one of the many reasons I chose Holy Cross was because it was a Catholic Jesuit institution. So for me, like a lot of the responses that I'm hearing just makes me continue to feel good about you know, Holy Cross and all that I try to continue to do for the college, and as all you do as well. Keith, maybe I'd like to jump to you to start on this one. Can you talk about what the faculty and administrative staff, you know, do to practice the Ignatian spirituality?
Yeah, and so what I would say to people here, what I often say to faculty on their first day is like, we do not consider faculty to be parishioners of Holy Cross, right? We want to relate to people in the roles that they have because we need them to do the roles that they have. I do not know anything about biochemistry, and if I attempted to show up in a biochemistry class, it would not go well for anybody. So I need the biochemist to teach biochemistry. I also need them to understand a little bit about Jesuit history and how we got into education and what motivates these institutions. Like that is what I really want people to know. Then, as our mission statement says, for those who wish, the riches of like a practiced Catholicism are available here. And that includes, of course, Ignatian spirituality. So we offer like a lot of different menu items is how I encourage the Office of Mission to think about it. How do people enter into a dialogue? That's really important. So like we offer some days out of the Joyce Contemplative Center. We call them, he has a very clever name for them. I can't remember off the top of my head, but co-laboring days is what he calls them, or co-working days. And he says, look, we're gonna offer you 2 meals a day. You can bring your computer. If you need space to write, we will gather for a reflection in the middle of the day. And that reflection has often been, when I've gone, a reflection on how the work you are doing contributes to the mission of the college. And so and these are faculty members, so someone might be working on an article. We've had people from like ITS bring their entire team out, and they're like working on their computers with their headphones on. But everyone gets to talk and share with each other how the work they're doing day to day is in support of the college's mission. We also do formation programs, right, for faculty and staff. So we have this program called Jesuit. Jesuit is like a very baseline program that it introduces people to the life of St. Ignatius, the mission of the college, especially a deep dive on the mission statement of the college. And it also goes over that characteristics document, which I mentioned before, which we use for the MPE. There are other things. There's a mission seminar. Michele might want to talk more about that. That is and I think Heather, who's kind of staffs the President's Council, she's done it this year. That is like a 10, maybe 20, almost up to 20 people at a certain level who want to do a deeper dive on Jesuit education, Ignatian spirituality, the mission of the Society of Jesus. And so there's monthly readings. It's always combined with lunch. There's always food going around here in the mission office. And so we get people together for conversation and to do kind of a deeper dive. One of the other things, just to mention it, I just got off a plane last Thursday. I was with faculty and staff on an Ignatian pilgrimage to Spain and Rome. And what we did is, it's a real pilgrimage. Not walking, certainly, but to holy sites. So we are walking in the footsteps of St. Ignatius, where he was born, where his life changed, how his faith came to be, where he decided that like we were going to move towards the mission of schools. And it's a real engagement with faculty and staff in a different way. So again, I can talk about 3 faculty who were in the psychology department who I didn't really know that well. Most people, when they read the autobiography of St. Ignatius, they diagnose him with something because he was an intense guy. So I thought, oh, 3 psychologists, we'll see how this goes. No, we had such rich conversations, both in the seminars beforehand, but also in country. And several people, it's a privilege to go on these trips as like the chaplain, because people pull you aside and they're like, I need to talk to you about something. So a lot of the work of like, how do we hand this on to people is very individual. There are programs, and we want people to start to do those programs and to enter in where they can. But a lot of ministry in general, it happens one-to-one. That's true of students, and that's true of faculty and staff. Sorry for the long answer there, and I might let Michele weigh in here too.
I get the feeling that in that crowd, they were probably asking you a lot of questions, so the roles were reversed a little for you.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, Michele, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. And if you didn't know, we sponsor the Ignatian pilgrimage every year. So every year we are sending 10 to 15 faculty and staff to Spain and Rome, and an opportunity for our colleagues to deepen their own understanding. I will say one other thing about the mission seminar that Keith mentioned, different from Jesuit, which is sort of like the overview program, like what is this place where I've landed and what do all of these terms mean? The mission seminar takes people, as Keith said, on a deeper dive, and then asks folks to connect the concepts, the spirituality, the history, the identity with the work they do. So there's a different element, a deeper element to the mission seminar than to Jesuit. And the other thing that I'll mention too is, as I said before, we're very active with the Association of Jesuit Colleges and Universities, so AJCU. And AJCU offers a number of formation programs for faculty and staff. And we send people to these programs every year. And they can be, programs that help you understand the global network of Jesuit higher ed, programs that help you understand Ignatian spirituality, programs that deepen your own leadership as an Ignatian leader. So all of these things. And again, the benefit is doing this exploration with people from across the network. So this experience of being a part of something much bigger than myself, much bigger even than Holy Cross. And what I have seen over time, and for myself included, as I've participated in these programs, that the flame burns so much brighter when folks have an opportunity to reflect and really metabolize what this identity actually means and how it impacts their work, and how they have the privilege to engage mission and identity in their work.
Thank you, Michele. We're going to jump topics a little bit to something that Michele had raised earlier and talk a little bit about free speech. So Vince, maybe can you lead us off just and talk about the Jesuit approach to free speech on campus?
Yeah, and this might also be a moment to just touch on very quickly on a couple of issues that came up in the chat. I mean, I think when we are thinking about building a vibrant academic community here, these are the kinds of issues that we have to be attentive to. This is a Jesuit Catholic college, academic institution, but it is still an academic institution in the context of being the best possible academic institution we can be. And there are certain approaches to, research and teaching and speech that we have to be attentive to. So when we are recruiting faculty, to get to one of the questions, to come here, we are not expecting that they think that they cannot be their best biochemist here. We want them to feel that they can be their best biochemist here, but we also want them to understand more broadly the work that we do here as a Jesuit Catholic institution, how it connects with Catholic intellectual life, how it connects with the concept of formation of students, and how we build community here. These are things that are also calls to people from a wide variety of backgrounds. This is not a parochial school. This is a college or university setting. So it's a very different kind of work. And so we have to think, very carefully about how we create an environment that is welcoming and stimulating and challenging for all kinds of people, yet still rooted in a true Catholic identity, which I think we spent a lot of time talking about. And that identity is broad, just to get to the other question about the rosary. It's a broad, we want every Catholic person who's on this campus who wants to practice their faith to feel that there is a space for them to do that within the wide, broad sweep of ways that Catholicism can be expressed. All the different charisms of the church are just one example of that. And then this is also a global faith, and it needs to give space to the different cultural expressions of Catholicism that exist around the world. So that's a lot of work. That's a big tent, but that's the tent that we set. And so, we hope that people see that. And yes, from time to time, there are those who question whether or not we are, truly Catholic, but I think we've already addressed that question. And, we don't answer to individuals who ask that question. We answer to the society, we answer to Rome. And so that's how we make the determination. But on free speech, then, we have a responsibility as an academic institution to foster an environment where ideas can be exchanged fully and freely. However, we do not have a responsibility as an academic institution to take positions on every issue that comes up in politics, in all kinds of debate. And so when I arrived, created a statement on statements to clarify for the community what it is that the college will speak to when it comes to issues of the day. And there's no one answer to this. We are seeing a movement in American higher education that, more and more colleges and universities are choosing to be clearer and to narrow the issues upon which they speak, akin to what we see in the Chicago Principles, which tried to, in the 1960s, make a very strong statement about the college being a space, the university being a space for the free exchange of ideas. We want people to freely exchange ideas on campus. That does not mean, however, that we will not ever speak. We will speak to issues that we believe go to the heart of who we are as an academic institution, as a higher education institution, as a Jesuit Catholic institution. So there will be moments in which we will find it appropriate and sometimes necessary to speak as an institution. So that would be me speaking on behalf of the institution in a way that states an opinion on certain things. But as a general rule, our goal is to foster open dialogue. And I think if you want to sort of do a deeper dive on what we're trying to accomplish here, I would urge you to take a look at our mission statement, which is on the web, on our website. It is a wonderful statement. It has endured for 30 years because I think it's a really strong expression of the kind of community we hope to foster here. And it, makes it very clear that, we have to speak, we have to create a space of free dialogue. However, there are things that are central and important to us. And I want to, as part of that dialogue and that creation of an environment that fosters freedom of speech, I think Michele can tell us a little bit more about what we're doing with the student body through the Constructive Dialogue Institute.
Sure, happy to, thank you. So yes, we're an academic institution, and so we should be able to vigorously debate, discuss, dialogue about issues. That said, we're also a Jesuit Catholic institution, and the quality of our community matters. And so how we engage dialogue, and including, issues where people hold very different points of view, we have to learn to do that. We have to learn, and our Jesuit tradition helps us learn how to have open dialogue and accompany others, walk alongside others, including folks with whom we might disagree. So we have partnered with an organization called the Constructive Dialogue Institute, and they do work all across the country, helping people learn how to have productive dialogue. And part of that is the brain science about what happens when, you really disagree and that fight or flight or freeze kind of moment happens. Part of that is understanding your own self. Part of it is understanding your values and acknowledging that people, even folks with whom you might disagree, they are also coming from a place of closely held values. So this learning this mutual respect. But we chose to partner with CDI. One of the primary reasons we chose to partner with them is that their principles actually mirror what we learned from St. Ignatius in the presupposition to the spiritual exercises, right? That we assume the best intentions of the other person, that we correct gently, that we ask questions. And this is a way of engaging, sadly, that is not the dominant way of engaging in our society, but we feel very strongly that our students need to learn this. So this fall we will it'll be the second full class of first-year students that will get the full training. And then we have had student leaders across all years who have gotten the full training. And so at this point, we have probably 3/4 of our student body have been trained. And then we hold dialogue dinners over the course of the year. And students suggest the topics. So these are the things that they want to engage about, and they are not shy. They pick topics that are pretty hairy, and they put the principles to good use. So we practice. And the students, when they say in their evaluations is that it really helps them to learn, and more importantly, to listen, and then to be able to share their own perspective in a way that is persuasive perhaps, but that actually just helps them to share a little bit about who they are and how they come to their own perspective. So it's pretty great work. It's important work, and we're very dedicated to it.
Thank you. Given we have a follow-up question that is somewhat similar, but really is focused on the faculty. I don't know if the response is any deeper, but ultimately, can you reconcile sort of the Jesuit Catholic mission given so many of our faculty are either non-Christian or atheist. Again, I don't know if there's anything more to add.
Well, I'll just add a couple of things. So, one of the things that we do as Catholic institutions, as a church, is we have to be responsive to the signs of the times. And the times change, and the idea that a Catholic institution necessarily is made up almost entirely or, substantially of practicing Catholics is just not the way that Catholic institutions function in this country anymore. I mean, because of just the reality of numbers. There are some that are able to have communities that are primarily Catholic, but that's not actually been the way that Jesuit institutions for a very long time have seen themselves, way back in the 19th century and even before. When the earliest institutions in this country were founded, many of them were open expressly to non-Catholics, to people of all faiths. They're in the charters of some of these institutions. So, that's sort of baked into who we are. But I also would just refer us to another way of thinking about this. There was an encyclical written by Pope Paul VI, I think, Populorum et Progressio. And one of the things, he wrote extensively about evangelization in that encyclical. And he referenced what real successful evangelization involves thinking the way the early Christians in the church thought about evangelization. People came to Christianity, people came to the church based on the examples set by those who believe. Because of the way people lived, because they helped widows and orphans, because they did things that drew people to their communities and who became interested in and engaged with them. So I think part of what we do, when I think about who we are as a Jesuit Catholic institution, it's we are setting an example of a way to be, of a way to live, and a way to believe that by definition should be open to those who are curious, who want to be involved in a conversation with us. And the result of that conversation may be transformative. It may be conversion, but it doesn't have to be. The fact, though, is that possibility is always there. So we are totally committed to the kind of diversity and the expression of humanity that has made Jesuit institutions so vibrant, but it also carries with it the possibility of more.
Thank you, Vince. I know we only have a little more than 10 minutes now, so I'd love to try to get through at least 2 more questions. So I throw this one out to whomever unmutes their phone the fastest. Can you talk a little bit about the steps that we have taken or will take in response to the Trump administration's attack on higher education?
I guess that's me. So, we are working across so many different organizations, including our Jesuit Catholic colleagues and sister institutions, as well as American higher education more broadly, to, be very thoughtful and very engaged about the kinds of things that we believe are going to be truly damaging to the work that we do. And we are planning to respond to those as best we can. And there are some things that are happening that will make it very, very difficult for higher education in this country to thrive. I mean, we could have a whole webinar on that. But I will say, attacks on the ability of institutions to bring in students across a wide range of socioeconomic backgrounds fundamentally undermine what we hope to do as a Jesuit Catholic institution. Attacks on our ability to do research, attacks on our ability to host international students, all of those things, are counter to who we are and what we believe. So, in as much as we can do, in as much as we can respond effectively through advocacy and through lifting our voices across our networks and across our alumni, we will do that. And hopefully we will see some change. So I actually call on all of you as alumni of this institution to keep yourselves informed of some of the things that are being proposed by the administration. And, we are happy to share with you the things that we believe will be damaging to our work. And I'm sure you'll read about some of them as well in the media. So, this is uncharted territory, but I think it's fair to say that almost in the last century, there has never been a more concerted attack by an administration against some of the more fundamental understandings of how higher education is supposed to work in this country. So, you know, it's been a very difficult time.
Let me, if I could just add a word here, because I think there's a thread through a previous question, is that caricatures are alive and well. They're alive and well in the church. They're alive and well in the debate over what higher education is and what it's doing. At the end of the day, caricatures do not build community. And so a large part of the work that I feel we do here is trying to complicate the narrative for people, is that people want a simple narrative. But to be human is to live in a world that is very complicated. I sometimes think about the 3rd or 4th century, the church is trying to figure out what can we say about who Jesus Christ is? And we settle on a definition: fully human, fully divine, never mixed, never separated, never confused. And everyone says, oh, okay. Well, what is it? This is very complex thinking. But we settled on this. We settled for something that was complex. I think today we're like, no, we're not interested in complex thought. We just tell me who's evil, who's correct, who's right, and who's wrong. The world is not that easy. And so introducing students to that is really important, and introducing and helping our faculty and staff along in that is really important too.
Okay. One final question then is, how will we prepare Holy Cross students to be an institutional leader in the AI world?
So the college has a task force that we launched last fall to examine just about every aspect of AI on campus, from learning to teaching and ethics to administrative efficiency to training and resources, improving the student experience. I think one through line here is AI is here. We have to deal with it. We cannot hide from it. You know, that's been my message to the faculty, and I think they've taken that up well. How am I going to use AI? How will I, you know, tame AI? How will I create an ethical environment to engage with AI? And there's a place where I think the college has a lot to offer based on everything we've already discussed this hour. You know, we are in a very strong position to think about the deep ethical questions that are involved with this tool as it expands and grows. We have our own homegrown AI platform, call it Suarez, and it integrates lots of different AI platforms from, you know, that are available. And, you know, we are building an internal capacity that has a more protective environment for AI within the college, and which also can be used as a learning tool. And that also puts all the students on the same playing field, because obviously what happens right now is those who can afford higher level AI platforms can purchase them, while others cannot. So we want to make sure that all of our students have access to the tool, that the best possible tool and a safe tool. So how will AI inform and be integrated into the academic experience, and how will it become something that serves humanity instead of you know, working to destroy it or undermine it? So these are all things that I think we're well suited to work on and to think about, and we are right in there in the mix.
I think too, a word can be said that like our Jesuit Catholic identity is helping us think through some of this, because this is really a conversation about ends and means. A lot of the conversation in the wider world is about like, well, how can we use AI, you know, and what's the right, but the question I keep pushing people back on is like, why were we created? If we cannot figure out why we are on this earth, we're not going to be able to figure out how we're going to use AI. You can play with it, and you can make weird images and things. Like, there's a lot you can do with it. But until you really wrestle with the question of why you were made, and anyone who had the Baltimore Catechism can recite that first answer. But if you know anything about Ignatian spirituality, I was made to praise, reverence, and serve God. Like, if you figure out what you were made for, then you can figure out how you can use something. And that really, I think, is what we can offer to the debate on AI. And the college is taking a really thoughtful approach to it, which is no surprise to me.
I'll chime in too. I think that Keith is exactly right. It's the ethical concern and how are we as human beings, that is the primary focus of any of these questions related to AI. But the other thing that AI is offering us is an opportunity to help our students, not just our students, but faculty and staff as well, to think again about what it means to be a critical thinker in today's world. So, you know, we have faculty and staff who are deeply engaged in this, and our students are asking these questions. So the task force is, with its 4 different subcommittees, is really getting after these questions in a very real and timely way.
Thank you. And again, thank you to Vince, Michele, and Keith for your insights, for your candor, and perhaps even just a little clarity as it pertains to you know, the mission. I want to just thank everyone too who joined us from President's Council, and if you have not, you know, renewed your membership, we certainly hope that you do before or by June 30. And I'd also like to just remind everyone, for those that have not seen the announcement that came out, that we do have our President's Council big annual event Friday, November 21st. It's going to be at Fenway Park on Friday again, that November 21st. And then we will be playing Georgetown at Fenway the next day. So again, we hope that you are able to make your gift and that you will join us there. Thank you again for your participation today. Go Cross.